Proposition 15 is about commercial property tax for large businesses and was placed on the ballot by people who collected more than 900,000 signatures from registered voters in California, and it asks voters, should commercial and industrial properties be taxed based on their market value rather than on their purchase price? So before 1978, property taxes in California were imposed by local governments without the state's involvement. And at that time, the average tax rate was about 2.5% of the assessed value of the property. And the assessed value was based on the price that the property could be sold at the time it was assessed. So it's market value. And then each year, local governments set the property tax rates based on the amount of revenue they needed to finance the services in their community. But in 1978, voters passed Prop 13, reducing property taxes for both commercial and residential property. And the two things that are still in place today for commercial property are that property taxes based on the purchase price instead of the market value, and property tax cannot be more than 1% of the purchase price with an annual adjustment to the rate of inflation or 2%, whichever is lower. So even though landlords sponsored Prop 13, residents have also benefited. Now, due to the complex forms of business ownership like partnerships and LLCs and REITs and others, actual changes in ownership of commercial property are seldom captured, and so many large business properties are taxed based on the value that property had long ago, perhaps as long ago as 1977. And market value of property in California has increased at an average of about 8 to 9% during those years. And so it's resulted in taxable revenue of many properties being lower than what the market value is. So Prop 15 proposes the following changes to the way commercial property taxes are calculated. For starters, Prop 15 does not affect residential property. Prop 15 does not affect business owners who own less than $3 million worth of property in California. Prop 15 does not affect home-based offices and businesses, and it also does not affect agricultural property unless the farm equipment that was bought for that property exceeds $500,000 in value. But what it does do is starting in 2022, commercial properties will be assessed based on the market value of the property, and reassessments would happen at least every 3 years and each time the property changed owners. Mixed-use residential commercial property won't be affected if 75% or more of the property is residential. If less than 75% is residential, then only the commercial part will be reassessed, and only if it's worth more than $3 million. So these increases are estimated to affect about 8% of the large business owners and will be phased in over the next several years. Prop 15 is expected to generate between $8 to $12 billion in revenue per year when it's fully implemented, and the revenue would be distributed to counties to cover the costs of implementing the measure as a first priority, and then 60% of the remaining would go to local governments and school districts, and 40% would go to, 60% would go to local governments and special districts, 40% would go to school districts and community colleges. So a yes vote means you want property that's owned by large businesses to be taxed based on the market value of the property. And a no vote means you want corporate property tax to be based on the purchase price. In either case, the tax will not exceed 1% of the purchase price nor 2% annual increases, just like it does today. Okay, support for Prop 15 has received $43 million in donations, mostly from the California Teachers Association, also from Chan Zuckerberg Advocacy and the SEIU and San Francisco Foundation. People who support 15 say that the small fraction of companies that make the most money should pay property taxes based on fair market value, the same way that many homeowners and most businesses do. And they also say renters and consumers pay market rate for rents and goods regardless of the property taxes paid by corporations. And then finally, they say that the money from Prop 15 goes directly to counties and cities for schools and roads, fire departments, and other local services. People opposed to Prop 15 have collected $29 million from the California Business Roundtable, from the Taxpayers Association, from California Business Properties Organization, and the California Farm Bureau Federation. And people who oppose 15 say that special interests continue to push for new and higher taxes to pay for pensions.